Welcome to the WazaMedia Podcast. WazaMedia is a digital marketing agency that believes in the power of storytelling. We show businesses and individuals how to communicate with laser focus in a media-saturated world. So last episode, if you missed it, you can check that out on any podcast platform by just Googling or searching, that's synonymous these days, W-A-Z-A, that's Waza Media, all one word. And we talked about, oh, help me, JR. What did we talk about?
We talked about prepping for a media interview.
Right. And we both really liked that one. I don't know if the audience is going to like it, but we liked it. And so now we're going to talk about telling your origin story. Maybe that'll be in an interview, or maybe it's just on your own platforms, but the importance of telling your origin story. And you'll hear a little bit of ours on this podcast. You already heard him. I have JR, my co-host, with me here. Welcome.
It's good to be here, Andrew.
It's good to be here as well. So origin story, let's start with the why. Why, JR, would you say that is important for a company or organization to do that?
I think it's important for a company or organization to have an origin story because you want to have a way to connect with your audience. There's nothing more stronger than having that personal connection with your audience, showing how relatable you can be, showing that you come from the same background, either geographically, if it's ethnically background, or even belief system. You need to find a way to connect with your audience, and building those ties is important. And some of the ways that you can do that is through storytelling. I know that's something that we at WazaMedia talk about all the time. Is storytelling is important for communicating your message out to your audiences, and an origin story and how you tell it is one great way how to do it.
Right, and actually neurologically speaking, we code memories in story form. So if you want people, in a way, if you want people to remember you, having a story around your business is a way for them to remember you better as well. So, yeah, I guess we could start with our origin story. We started with why origins are important, but in a sense, we have two origins. For me, the name WazaMedia, Waza meaning great at your craft. It's a Japanese kanji. I've always been interested in business. That goes all the way back to when I was stationed in Japan. I had the fortunate time of spending some good quality time with a successful Japanese businessman over several meetings, and we just talked, and he's the one that kind of inspired me for the name, for one, and just gave me inspiration for being in business in general, as did my time with my dad. He's always been into business and entrepreneurship and loved those things, and he's owned multiple companies over the years, and so just kind of had that exciting, or kind of that implanted in my mind. And then fast forward to, I guess this is kind of a relaunching of WazaMedia, because originally we began doing work back in 2013, and then fast forward to now. Last year, JR and I partnered up. And how would you add to this origin story?
To add to this origin story, I think I need to go back to when I used to be a nurse. So coming out of college and coming into the Army, I came in as an Army Nurse Corps officer. I worked in many areas of nursing, from being at the bedside, surgical. When you come out of surgery, I woke you up. I did patient education. I've worked in ER. I've worked with combat support hospitals where we built tents in the middle of nowhere and we set up shop so that way we can take care of service members if they get hurt. And then we were ready to treat and take care of patients anywhere at any time. And while being a nurse, I did dabble into business, and I dabbled into getting more professional development, especially as a photographer, more specifically headshot photography under Peter Hurley in New York City. And so learning from him in the business of personal branding through headshots, I became more interested on how that would be impactful for businesses when it comes to the medical side that I know a lot about, corporations, and also actors and actresses. There's definitely applicability, and it relates to pretty much everyone. And so learning about branding, learning about PR work, I got picked up and transitioned my military career into military PR, and I haven't looked back since. And then actually doing PR on the military side is how we got to meet, and that's
Yeah.
how we came to develop a great friendship. And now we are partners in this great company that we're looking to do great things for our clients, and spread the word about storytelling, because it's really important.
Yeah, you and I both gained a lot of our experience in both on active duty military, doing strategic communications for the military, and then in civil service after that. And I think what between the two of us, we have well over 20 years of experience in the strategic communication, PR, marketing space. And yeah, I know you are, and I am as well. Really grateful that for that time that we had doing that. So that was kind of our story, and in a nutshell. And that's one thing I'd like to throw out as a tip. The first tip for our audience is don't be afraid to abbreviate. We just highlighted in like 3-4 minutes years and years of our story. So, and I know it's so tempting to dive into all the details, the ups and the downs, the struggles, the triumphs. What you want to do is just really begin to write out, like get it all out in all its detail, and then look for those really noteworthy points, key moments along the way, and that's what you want to start, telling. What other tips would you have for folks as they're trying to just condense or telescope down probably multiple decades of time?
I think you pointed out a good point, is lay it all out and then look for those golden nuggets. Look for those golden nuggets that's something that you want to relate to your audience. For me, looking at how I briefly structured my origin story, it came down to what was I doing before, and then what was the transition point. And that is, everyone goes through transition points in their life, so that's relatable. And then talked about the now, because with storytelling, it's really a journey from getting from one place to another. But the interesting part about the journey is, how do you get there? Some of the classes that I've taken about storytelling keep bringing up The Hobbit in or in the Lord of the Rings, sorry, where Frodo could have just fast forward to go to the mountain to throw the ring in there. But if you did that, it would be a really, really short book. So throughout the journey, he had trials and tribulations, and he met people that helped him and people that didn't help him along the way. And so, but that part of the story became really, really exciting to talk about Frodo's journey in the book series, The Lord of the Rings.
Right. It's like this, the in between is the only reason we actually care. You take out the middle, that monumentous moment doesn't have much care behind it. I would say as we are ending this kind of topic for this cast, I would want to leave a kind of a question with the audience. What of our story stuck with you, or what of our story connected with you? And then, without even going back on this podcast, what do you remember from our stories that just because we told it in a story form? And use, as you're thinking back on our story, let that kind of be an example to you of like how well telling origin stories can work for your customer base as well. Anything to add, JR, before we close this one out?
Your story is something that no one else can tell. It comes from you, your past experience, your thoughts, your feelings, your perspective. No one else has that. And that is something that you should bring out when you're doing your storytelling. And that gives a different perspective for your audience. And look for ways on how to make those connections through your story, your experiences, because we all are living on this earth, and we all may have the same experiences. So you're not alone on this planet called Earth.
Thanks, JR, for those final thoughts. And thank you for listening to the WazaMedia Podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please share it with a friend and please give us a review. It only takes a moment and it surely does help us. Be sure to also follow us on our social media platforms at WazaMedia by searching WazaMedia. That's W-A-Z-A, then the word media, all together. If you're looking for an agency to help take you and your business to the next level, visit our website, waza.media, to schedule a consultation. Thanks again for listening, and tune in next time for our next podcast.